All right, good morning. We are talking about diverse representations in introductory psychology books, and specifically, we looked at comparing OER books and commercial textbooks. I'm Ashley Biddle. I'm at the University of Hawaii Leeward Community College. I have a large team working on this project with me. I have Cara Ray from Linfield University here today, also with me, and the other people on this list did a lot of work to help us create this presentation, and we're a big part of this project. All right, so just a little bit of background information. Since its inception, the OER movement has really valued social justice and diversity. These have been values that we've talked about. Some recent analyses have found that OER is particularly valuable for redistributive justice by the nature of it being free and zero cost to students. But some key articles and texts are weaker in representational justice, which is showing a diverse representation, which is what our study is looking at. We know from previous studies that diverse textbooks help students succeed, especially students from traditionally historically marginalized uh, groups. So Amy Nusbaum, one of the authors on this project, had a study in 2020 about looking at increased diversity in psychology textbooks. The text itself could help first generation students feel a higher sense of belonging in classes. Across other topics like chemistry, so female chemistry students had a higher comprehension after viewing female scientists in textbook readings. That helped them have higher comprehension. And psychology students who perceived higher levels of representational justice, which is what we're looking at here, had higher grades than students who perceived lower levels. So it seems like this higher level of diverse representation is helping students do better in classes and feel a higher sense of belonging. So we also know that textbooks often do not contain equal gender representation, right? They don't have this representational justice in them. So an old study from looking at textbooks from 1990 to 1992 in introductory psychology texts showed significantly more men than women in the pictures. So our study is kind of an update on this and expansion on this one. Again, in chemistry textbooks, only 30% of the photographs included women in them. So one of our big questions here is, with this commitment to social justice that OER has, are the OER books doing a better job of representing diversity, having this representational justice? So a 2020 paper looked at American government textbooks and found that, no surprise, marginalized groups were significantly less represented. And that author did a direct comparison between OER books and commercial books and found that the OER books were no better at representation than the commercial books. So we're looking at this. They were looking at it with topics and text, and we're looking at it with photographs, but also kind of the same idea of looking at, are OER doing it differently, better than the commercial books? So that leads us to our main research questions. This is a pretty exploratory study. We were mostly looking at how diverse are the photographs in current introductory psychology textbooks across both OER and commercial. And then, are there differences in the diversity of photographs between the OER and commercial text? So looking at those differences between OER and not OER. And then, because introductory psychology has so many different varied topics in it, right? We go all the way from biological psychology to clinical psychology to social psychology. We cover a range of topics. Are there systematic differences across maybe the different topics? So maybe one type of chapter is doing better at having this diverse pictures than another one. So now I'm going to pass it over to Cara to talk about how we did this part of our study?
Yeah, so our first step was to collect which commercial textbooks and OER textbooks we were going to pull these images and photographs from. So on the commercial side, we were looking for kind of the two most recent publications from prominent publishers. So we have two from Cengage and two from Pearson, two from Norton. So you can see the images here are the actual textbooks we use. And then on the OER side, we have four textbooks, but it's because we were looking for textbooks that are distinct. We know with OER using a lot of open resource images and text that they often borrow from one another. They are customizable. So you might have your own version of a OER textbook, but it would be really similar to someone else's. So these are the four most distinct, most recent that we could find. Now, pulling the images, so we had research assistants pull every single image. So this included photographs as well as drawings, diagrams that had any depiction of a human being in it. They did it for each book, commercial and OER. They were actually blind to which type of textbook it was. So when they pulled the image, they put the image on a Google slide, but they didn't know whether it was a commercial or an OER textbook.
Oh, sorry. I don't know why it advanced
It was a preview.
a bajillion slides.
All right. So after we pulled all the images, we have this coding scheme where we are focusing on gender representation within each image. So we had a lot of training, a lot of practice, and after discussion of discrepancies, we came up with reliability kappa indicating 0.813. So we split the remainder of the data for our research assistants to code individually. So our codes here are in the table. We have all men or boys, so age didn't matter here. We were just looking at gender. So this code just shows that there are no codable women or girls. Or we have majority men, boys. So we're looking for at least a 2-to-1 ratio of boys to girls or more. Equal would be a 1-to-1 ratio or less than 2-to-1. So there's a little bit of wiggle room there. Majority women, girls. So here we have at least a 2-to-1 ratio of girls to boys or higher. All women are girls, so there's no codable men or boys in this image. We also included a code for unknown, where our research assistants were unable to identify the person as either man, boy, or woman, girl. So this could be lack of information or their gender could not be ascertained in these codes that we created. And then the last one is crowd. So if there's more than 20 people in the image, they did not have to try to assess the gender of every single one of those people if there's more than 20 people.
Sorry, I don't know what this is doing. Okay. No. Okay.
Cool. So we just pulled a couple examples so you guys could see what we were talking about. So for our all men or boys category, our pictures on the left. So we have, assumingly, maybe a dad and his son, both seem to be boys. We should mention here that we do not know the actual gender of the people in these photos, but we're going off of perceived gender, basically going from like a reader's viewpoint. So in this, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. So that's all men, boys. The next one, from all the people that we can tell that we can code, they coded them as, again, boys. But on the majority side, so moving over to the pictures on the right, the runner, we can see maybe a man, the runner behind him, a man, but there seems to be a woman behind them. The person on the bench seems to be a man. So we have 3 men, 1 woman. So that's majority men, boys. Same thing in the student photo. We have 1 girl, 2 boys. So we have that 2-to-1 ratio boys to girls. Same thing, all women, girls. So if it's just like a single woman, that's obviously all women. In the second picture, we have a mom and a baby. The baby to us is uncodable, so we can't really decide or tell a gender here. So we kind of ignore that person since we do have a codable adult here. So that still counts as all women and girls. Same thing with the majority women and girls. We have at least a 2-to-1 ratio with more representation of the women or girls. Equal, so the picture on the left, we have one man, one woman, so that's equal 1-to-1 ratio. But the picture on the right we included because we have 4 men and 3 women. So we still counted that as equal because it wasn't 2-to-1 ratio or higher. Unknown, so where we really just couldn't decide on either man or a woman gender. So the picture with the looking at the brain, we have a face, but it's really hard to decide, could kind of make a decision either way. When there are just kind of floating body parts, hard to make a decision there as well. And then these are pictures of crowds where there's just too many people to try to count them all up.
All right, so just a little bit of the results. So we found this was across all textbooks. We just looked at gender representation, and it's important. So here we combined the majority and all groups for the men and boys and women and girls. So that 37% is a combined combination of all men and boys and um, the majority men or boys. Same with the women and girls, and then the equal unknown and crowd. So we see that men and boys are present in 37% of the photographs across all textbooks here. So they're the highest group. And then if we look at by textbook type, so here we have the light blue is OER, the darker blue is commercial textbooks. We see that especially with the women and girls, so OER textbooks, and again, these are combined categories. The OER textbooks had significantly fewer images coded as women or girls and as equal compared to the commercial textbooks. And significantly, the OER had significantly more images of men and boys compared to the commercial textbooks. The men and boys was still the highest category across both kinds of textbooks, but it was over 50% of the OER ones.
So kind of breaking it down by chapter topic, we collapsed our chapter topics into specific areas because not every single textbook has the same exact chapters. But we informed this decision with the APA pillars. So we combined introduction to psych and research methods as one topic, biological, cognitive, developmental, mental and physical health, and then social and personality. So looking again by chapter topic, we have our introduction and research methods chapters together. Those images had significantly fewer images coded for equal representation than social and personality chapter images. So that's where the significant difference lied. Our social personality chapter images had significantly fewer images coded as women, girls than our biological chapter. So again, that was the significant difference. The introduction research method chapters together, those images had significantly more images coded for men and boys than all the other chapter images except COG. So then looking chapter topics by textbook type, Our gender representation, we're going to look at biological chapters. So OER textbook having significantly fewer images coded as women and girls than man and boy in the commercial textbooks. For introduction and research methods topic, OER textbooks had more images coded as man or boy.
All right. And so what does this mean? What does this mean? This is still very exploratory, and we're open to hearing what your thoughts are about what these data mean. Overall, we found that men and boys are continue to be overrepresented in photographs within introductory psychology textbooks, but it has gotten better since that paper about the books in the very early 90s. So good news is, you know, 30 years of progress. We've made some progress there. We're still not at parity, but we have made progress, so that's good. Um, we That was the good news. So now here's the not as great news is that despite this commitment to more equal representation, um, the OER textbooks had significantly more photographs of men or boys, either the only men or boys or majority men or boys, and significantly fewer photographs with either the equal representation or the women and girls, which is a historically marginalized group, right? So, some reasons. So we thought about why is this, right? There's this commitment to more equal representation, but then it's not kind of borne out in the photographs that are chosen. So one limitation that OER textbooks have compared to commercial textbooks is that they have to use images that have a Creative Commons license, right? So that's part of the being free to share it. It has to be Creative Commons. So it's not like they have a huge budget to go out and take pictures or buy stock images or anything. Um, we think that this is an opportunity for the OER community to maybe look at how we can increase the diversity in these available Creative Commons licensed photographs uh, that would be available for people to use. Um, and also, as we develop more OER textbooks, we should include a systematic analysis of the diversity representations as we go along before it gets kind of sent out to the world. Uh, when we looked at the differences across the different topics, this is something we're still kind of thinking about how to interpret this. It seems like OER books tend to overrepresent men and boys, especially overall, but especially in that introduction and research methods chapters. Um, we should use this in future studies to think about whether this representation or this misrepresentation affects students' experiences, given this is often the first chapter that students are assigned to read, that this is their introduction to the course, to the topics. So how that might affect that. Commercial books tend to do a better job than OER books of representing women and girls, especially in the biological psychology chapters. So, this was something we were really interested in given the historic underrepresentation of women in STEM, and biological psychology being often the most STEM like topic within psychology. This might be an especially valuable place to represent women and girls in photographs. And it seems like commercial textbooks are doing a better job of addressing this than OER textbooks. But again, a place for OER to kind of join in on this. So, some future directions. We are not done with this project yet. This is just a preview of this was the gender stuff. We are currently coding for racial representation in the same photographs. So using the same photographs, coding for whether there is none, only one, or more than one person in each of these racial categories in the photographs. So stay tuned for that. We are eager to share that information once we have it too. Um, and some other ideas that we've thought of. some more questions we have, but again, are open to your questions you may have. We're thinking, are the gender race of authors of the textbooks related to the diversity of images? Um, is the representation of diversity in images related to the representation of diversity in the written text? So it seems like most studies have either studied one or the other, either images or text, but maybe how they relate to each other. Um, how do photographs affect students' perception of the course and topic? So we know the written word affects students' perceptions, but we're wondering if the photographs themselves affect students' perceptions. And then also, how can we leverage the customizability of OER, open pedagogy, all that stuff that we love to increase the diversity of photographs in introductory psychology, right? Can we invite our students maybe into helping increase diversity, that kind of thing? Then we just have some references in case you want to look up the studies we cited. But other than that, thank you so much. Um, we are open to, please reach out to us if you have thoughts about this, interpretations about this, other things you think we should look at. And thank you so much to Cara for being here and helping me present. And yeah, thank you for listening to our talk.
Thank you.